1. All right, we should be live now. So great to have you. Lake05 here. And today I am working on some Unity stuff. So we'll jump right into that. I feel like there's some preface needed. Like I got an itchy nose, so that might happen a few more times. But this is like the non-main channel, so I'm not trying to present anything, not trying to teach anything. I'm just hanging out, having fun. I don't have like an overlay for chat, so I will be coming back here to check chat every so often, so feel free to send some messages in. But I'll be over here in Unity. And basically, I've been working on this new app, and I just started a brand new world. I swapped out the grid with like a basic grid, and then I think if I hit play, this still functions. I just deleted all the stuff that comes with the default VR setup, and it looks like it is running, so that's good. No errors on the console, could not find a device. Yeah, so it's like there is no VR device, but that's okay. Cool. So next, I need to get some stuff brought into here. So we're gonna go reveal in Finder. And so what I like to do is just keep recreating projects. So some of these will have like a ton of different variations. And I like just redoing stuff over and over and over again. I really feel like it solidifies the learning. And so I'm gonna assets, open a new tab. You'll also notice I'm on a Mac today. If you watch the main channel, I usually have to be on a Windows, but I prefer Mac, so that's where we are. And over here we got assets, plugins. This is what I was looking for. And so I need to get these plugins installed. And I think the easiest way to do that is just to copy this folder over. I don't think that'll cause any problems. I don't really know if I should be keeping the metadata. Like maybe it doesn't matter, but I'm just gonna move it to trash anyway, just to be on the safe side. So these are the 3 things that I need to get Jint working. Jint allows us to use TypeScript inside this application, which is kind of really important to me personally. And so there's that. And then there are a bunch of APIs I've been working on over here. And I want to just kind of remake some of these, make them better. There's some other things I need to make. And so we're just going to create a new folder outside of this. Let's see. I think I'm going to do that from inside of here. So let that compile. It'll take a second. Don't know if I need this open. Oh, it won't let me touch anything. Any second now. Lots of waiting, but not really. Okay, good. All right, so now that we got that done, I wanted to create a new folder, which I really just don't like having all of this stuff out, but some of those things I actually need. So I'm gonna create this thing called Unity stuff just to try and hide stuff away that I want to see. Like I know that I can put Text Mesh Pro in there. Pretty confident I can put scenes in there. Samples can probably go in there. And if I hit play, everything should be functioning properly. But I know if I move XR in there, I get an error. Oh, look at, there's an error. Control Z, Command Z. Okay. And then that should fix the bugs, hopefully. Okay, certain things can't put in there. Issues. Enabled OpenXR features required OpenXR to be selected as the active. Okay, we're not caring about that. Okay, cool. So then I wanted to create a folder for scripts, so these APIs. So these are what I'm calling slumber APIs. Don't ask, I'll tell you later. So anyway, I got the slumber APIs here. And let's see, got these scripts. I am gonna minimize this to get it out of my view. I'm gonna minimize my music for now. And this is the first one, which is like a custom entity, which does somewhat mirror a little bit Horizon's entity. We've got update mesh, and then this one was just for doing debugging and testing. And so that one needs to go somewhere else. And so this is part of this whole cleaning up I need to do. So I'm going to create a new folder and call this utilities. And then I want to start note which ones are mine so I can read these folders better. So I'm going to go with like 0, 1, maybe 0, 0 utilities. And then I'm going to name this one 0, 1, So that way it all moves to the right. That's not what I want to do. Right click, rename. There it is. 0, 1. All right, nice. So I got my 2 script folders in here. So let's start with this first utility script. This one needs a better name, but we're just gonna copy it, paste it into the utilities folder. And what this does is it allows me to build a console. And so really this should be called in-world console. And it's a list of strings, which we're just gonna call the console logs. There we go. So that's going to create some renaming later, but that was it. So just a list of strings stored inside of that. Nice. And then I need to rename this file. So I'll do that real quick. Open folder. I'm going to open the whole entire assets folder. Yes, I trust the authors. And so inside of utilities, we have this, which we're going to now rename to in-world console. In-world console. There we go. Much better name. Okay, one done. A couple more to go. And so let's start with this update mesh. Maybe we'll start with entity. Command C. Entity is going to be way more complicated. What am I thinking? Anyway, we'll paste it in anyway. Let's get both of them. Why not? Command C, Command V. All right, so these are the ones that I'm currently using to make the application function. And still just me here, which is totally fine. I know a couple of you will watch this in the end, but I thought it'd be fun to do some of these like dev moments on stream. But for those watching on the stream playback, I'll show you a quick run through of this application. So let's see, right here is going to be the best build to demonstrate on computer. And the previous build, okay, there it goes. So I just hit start and you can see the cube spawn, and then I can hit stop, and then I can open up a JavaScript folder. I can see the scripts in here and I can modify them if I'd like. So here's where the cubes are being spawned. Oops, I meant to open that in VS Code. Right click, open with Visual Studio Code. And so if we modify the Y value, it's currently set to 0, but we could just change this to math.random and then multiply that by 3, command save, and then we run back into the application and hit start. And now you can see it's kind of a little bit more chaotic. So that's nice. And then we can run that over and over again. Since we're using a lot of math.random, it's going to look different every time. Pretty cool. So that is a quick demo of the desktop version that will not see the light of day. But that was just an early prototype for making sure everything was working as expected and did what we intended. And now it's running on Quest VR. So let's see. I need to clean up some of this. Done with this. Where did my... There we are. So running on Quest. So that is cool. At some point I need to plug that in and get that better set up. Okay. So we got these 2 scripts here and we need to modify them. So Slumber APIs. The Entity API is probably one of the more complex ones. It actually doesn't look that bad. I know this has got to be cleaner. So let's start with this and work on it. I'm going to zoom it in so you can see it better. Command plus to zoom in. And so we've got this vec3 JSON data, and then we got a quaternion JSON data. So this was just the previous way of sending stuff through to get it to work. And it functions. It's not what I'd like to do though. The better way to do this, like way better way, let's just completely destroy this. And it was from an early prototype I was building with a different tool. Rather than using Jint, I was using what's called PureTS. PureTS just didn't end up working for me, but it had different limitations and different things. So anywho, it doesn't matter. List game objects equals new list of game objects. Rather than returning game object, should instead return a unique ID. So here's some of my notes of things I need to improve. Let me open it in the update mesh over here for now, and then focus on this. Updating position. Okay, so when you call the update position function, you give it the game object and the string. What we need to instead do is change this from string to be number, which will be actually a float. And then this is going to be the x value, and then we're going to do that just like that. And that was for position, so there's no w value in position. That's quaternion has a w value. And so we got game object, so, and then instead of game object, we're going to get rid of that at some point. I'll just put a red dot here to remind me I need to do that. But we're going to do the same thing for our previous one down here that's also a vec3, and paste. Nice. And we'll do the same thing here for our quaternion, except for it needs the w value. So we need another float, which is the w. There we go. And so here, when we're creating the rotation, we can now swap this out with new quaternion, parentheses, x, y, z, w. Nice. And I think that's going to work. I don't do a lot of C# coding, to be honest. I focus on TypeScript, but I'm pretty sure that'll work. And then I think we can clean this up and make it a little less finicky by just changing that to there, deleting this line here, and then doing the exact same thing here. So we say new vector3, parentheses, x, y, z. Nice. We can then delete this, and then copy paste this right through here, Command C, to here, Command V. Nice. Okay, so theoretically that does the same thing. I really should compile this code in Unity just to make sure that I'm using things correctly. And console says, got a couple errors. Vec3 JSON data could not be found. Vec3 JSON does not exist in the current context. This is on the entity API. Okay, so there's some place where that's still being used. Oh, it's right here. I forgot to delete this line? I did. I just forgot to delete that line. Okay, nice. Command save. Let's go back and see. I think there might be one more, but I don't see it. Let's check again. And the answer is no, we got them. Perfect. Okay. So we got the rotation set, we got the local scale set, we got the position set. The problem is I feel like we need a get and a set on these entities, but do we? Maybe not. I don't think we do. So we got update position, update scale, update rotation. I kind of want to change these to, I kind of wanted position dot set to more mirror Horizons API, but the reality for us is that we are not going to be doing we're not going to be exposing this, like this isn't the way that people engage with entities, because we don't want bridge calls in TypeScript to C# all the time. And so this is only used at the final place, which we'll see when we get to that point. But I think I'm going to change this to be called set position. Update position isn't accurate enough in my mind. I feel like set position is more accurate. Set scale, and then set rotation. Okay. And then I want to really just very clearly mirror these names. So this is like transform position, this is transform local scale, this is transform rotation, so those match nicely. And I should probably go with proper Unity C# conventions, which is capital for here. And then, even though that's not the way we would do it in TypeScript, but that is the way that we would do it in C#, so probably best to keep the naming conventions following Pascal case here. Okay, so now we got to get rid of this game object thing, which is going to require some sort of map. And in TypeScript, totally know how to map. Easy, super simple. The question is there an equivalent in C#? So we'll go to chat and GPT and ask, does C#, we'll call this Unity, C# have a equivalent to the map in TypeScript? TS. Equivalent. I don't know how I messed that up. Okay, the answer is yes. The TypeScript map is the generic dictionary T key T value. Okay, so it's called a dictionary in C#. It looks basically the exact same. It's in system collections generic, use try get value for safe access. Okay, that makes sense. So the idea in my mind is every thing in the world, every game object is going to be given a value based on when it's created. And then you're going to be able to get that out. So the value would be like an integer, so 0 through infinity. And then -1 is out of index, so that would just be nothing. The try get value makes sense. So it says int score map score equals 100. They've just named it map so it would match my understanding of how it works. But we're going to try to keep naming conventions making lots of sense here. So what we need to do is we got this list of game objects that's public. This was so that we could delete game objects later. That's what this is. So this is really not a list of game objects. This is actually a list of disposable game objects. And so when you create a game object, there was this option for is disposable. And if it was disposable, we deleted it when the world was reset. And so what we need to do next is create a public, and this is static, and it is a dictionary, which we know is using collections generic, so that seems right? Collections generic, okay. And then dictionary takes some values, which we're going to map an int to a game object. And then we need to give it the name. And so this is going to be called the game object dictionary. Go figure. And curious that they are using lowercase here. I feel like I'm supposed to use Pascal case on this too. I don't actually know. It's been a long time since I've been like actively doing C# coding, like over a year, and even then I didn't really know, although I had a pretty good idea. Okay, so we say new dictionary int game object done. Okay, simple as that. Double check, looks good. And now that we've got this game object dictionary, we can utilize that. So instead of returning a game object here, we're going to return an int. And then we need to know how many, which will be the size of the game object dictionary. Presumably, if we delete a game object, the value just becomes null inside of it. So game object equals new game object. And then we need to say ID. So this is an int ID equals dictionary. All right, we called it game object dictionary. Game object dictionary dot. I assume there's like a length. How can I get the size of a dictionary? These are the questions that are good for ChatGPT, not gonna lie. Use the count property. So map.count, or in this case, .count, okay? So ID equals count. So that will always be the next value to add. And then now that we have the ID, we can say, ooh, is it really add? Is that how it did it? Let's check. It was, no, they just did this thing. They just did it differently. I don't know if that's acceptable. Yeah, ID equals game object. Okay. Game objects add the disposable game object, return the ID, and that could work. So let's give it a roll. And so far this seems good. I'm gonna clean that up by doing that. Then here we're gonna swap this to the ID. which we'll call the game object ID to be very clear. Oh, which needs to be on the other side. I always forget that. Command C. This is an int, which is the game object ID. Then int, game object ID, int, game object ID. Okay. So now that we've done that, we need a safe way to get the value, which we see here is map.tryGetValue. TryGetValue seems to be the way to go. And I'm really like so out of my my field here with C#. We can then use value. So it says if map.tryGetValue score out int value. And we can utilize the value here. If I'm not mistaken, that's how that's working. So what we need to do then is say if parentheses. Oh, that's an option? Why not do that? Is that an option? Oh, what if the value, well, like there might be a value there, but it might not be defined anymore. It could still be null. Okay, okay, ask a question. Because like if you delete it, maybe the value's still there somehow, even though it shouldn't. I wouldn't imagine it should be. Like I said, out of my field of expertise by not being in TypeScript right now. Okay, game object dictionary dot contains game object ID. If that's a thing, let me go ahead and look it up. Dictionary, Unity dictionary, lists and dictionaries. Oh, that's there has to be. There's an easy way to get this. How do I open up? It's been a minute. Go to help. Oh, come on. Wait for it to load. I know there's errors. I'm not done. Unity manual. There we go. And then search manual for dictionary. And go to scripting API. Search again for dictionary. And, well, I was kind of expecting to see that. Maybe this is a C# feature. C# dictionary. Ah, here we go. Okay. Type values, examples. Okay, we've got this. It really is showing add some elements to the dictionary. There are no duplicate keys, but some of the values are duplicates. Yeah, that makes sense. The add method throws an exception if the new key is already in the dictionary. Okay, whereas the indexer can be used to change the value associated with the key. Okay, so this requires it to be there already. Now, theoretically, we could be, let's do something slightly different just to be on the safe side. We're going to create a private, this is not static, this is a private int called count, which we're going to call ID count. Which we're actually going to change to current ID, and that'll equal 0. Okay, so the current ID equals 0. So it comes in, and the ID equals current ID, and then current ID plus plus. Is that a thing in C#? I don't know. We'll find out in a minute. Okay, so that allows us to do that, to verify that if we delete something in the future, which seems like a reasonable thing to do, like probably have a delete at some point, then we say dictionary.add, and then it's a capital add, parentheses, ID and game object. Nice. Okay, that seems a little bit closer. And this is why you can't trust ChatGPT, because it's teaching us wrong. I'm on the wrong ChatGPT thread. There we go. Okay, let's see what else is in here. The indexer throws an exception if the requested key is not in the dictionary. Try catch key not found exception console.writeLine not found. Where is this key? Open with dot add text. Okay, so open with is this thing. Try open with dot add catch. Okay, so this will cause an error if it's already in there somehow. We're not going to do a try and catch because that should just never happen. Theoretically. Okay. Console.writeLine. Open with RTF. And then try open with. Okay, so then it runs open with and it goes to get that application and then it catches if that's not found. Okay. So I'm thinking we do one of these try catch statements. But we probably just won't have a catch. We'll just do a try. That seems like the most sensible thing to do. Although there was this contains key that I wanted to look up. Here it is. If opens with does not contains key, add. Okay, so contains key is definitely a thing. So we can then just, I guess we can just do that. But okay, then we have to delete the key somehow, which is probably a dot remove. I'm assuming we're going to find dot remove in here if I look for it. Remove doc. Key doc is not found. Open with dot remove. There it is. Open with dot remove. Okay. So it is pretty easy to just remove. Okay, with all those questions answered, we can then remove things when we're not using it, which means we can check to see if it's contained. And there we go, Shift-Alt-F. So contains the key, then we do the thing, but we need to do it to this key, which I guess we saw was just as simple as going open with dot, how do we do that? We did that by doing square brackets, so it's kind of like an array. No, that was to set it. Where was it? It was console.writeLine now. Open with dot add. There was something. Open with. Okay, yeah, it is just square brackets to access it. Okay. So theoretically, we just backspace this and go game object dictionary, square brackets, game object ID, and that does the trick. All right, and then I'm just going to copy paste this down and then modify as necessary. For this one, it's local scale, so we go Command C, Command V, and that one's done. And then this last one is very similar, Command C, Command V, except for this one is rotation, so we'll just copy from dot rotation all the way through, Command C, and Command V. There we go. All right, Command Shift-Alt-F, Command Save. Nice. Let's go see. That should remove all the errors. Oh, we got some errors still. An object reference is required for the non-static field method or property into API current ID. What did I mess up? The name game object does not exist in the current context. Let's see. Somewhere in here. We renamed it to disposable game objects right here. There we go. Command save. That should get rid of at least one of those. Okay. An object reference is required for the non-static field method or property entity API.currentID. Oh, is this in a different script? Slimmer API is entity API. We are an entity API, aren't we? Line 16. current ID plus. Oh, maybe that's not a thing. Maybe. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. Command C. This is something that I find ChatGPT does a pretty good job at. Can you review my code? All right. Your code is mostly clean, but there is one key issue. Current ID should be static. You're using current ID inside a static method create. Okay. I misremembered what static did. I'm dumb. Static means it's available. Yeah, okay, got it. Does that fix it? So plus does work. Nice. Anything else? Okay, so we did this static. We fixed it. Use try get value instead of contains key plus index. Improves performance and avoids double lookup. I see. Okay, we do need to be performance thoughtful. Thread safety. If you're calling these methods for multiple threads, e.g. jobs or async, context dictionary lists aren't thread safe. Consider locking or thread safe collections. Interesting. I don't think we need to worry about that. Add a method to dispose or destroy disposable objects. Hey, Nalia. Nicely done. Hey, Nalia, I'm sorry, but I'm working right now, okay? I'll see you in a little bit. Okay. Bye. She's got a little fishing rod. Okay, let's see. We're thinking about adding that, yep, but that's not for now. I think we're good. Cool. Thanks for the feedback. So, good stuff there. And welcome in if you just joined us. We are working on this Unity application. It's coming along nicely. I can do a hello, hi. So yeah, this is just some rewriting some APIs to be a lot cleaner. So far, so good. Pretty happy. We're moving on to update mesh. And I would like to do some more tests in here. We were thinking about cleaning up the performance of this, actually, now that I remember. It was like something I wasn't very comfortable with. I wanted to see, let's reopen that, if there was an example in here. I don't know if there is. Let's see, it was this try get thing. Let's see, right? If try get value, then go.transform. That does seem a lot easier. So let's try that out and then see if it compiles. I'm sure it will. If GameObjectDictionary dot try get value, and then we have GameObjectID in, and then out. We call that GameObject. Does it need a definition? It does. Needs to say game object. Oops. Game object goes here, right? And then this can be changed to simply game object again, which means I'm gonna have to rewrite the code some more. But that should be a lot more improved. Double check. Looks good. Okay. So now that we got that done, let's just copy, paste, and redo that again. Oh, I should check it, make sure it compiles. No issues. Cool. All right, and then this one is from .local scale over, Command C, and right here, Command V, and then delete this old one. All right, and then this is more similar to this, and then we just need to change it to dot position. So I'll change to position. There we go, nice. Okay, double check that that all looks good. And we're happy, cool. Okay, cleaned up. I wanted to see if there was a try get value inside of here. Properties, methods. Try get value. I just want to see an example of that. Open with .try get value tiff out value, and then yeah, it uses the value there. Nice. Okay, cool. So presuming that is optimized, as ChatGPT said, we should be in the clear. Nice. Okay, so now that we've got this set up, we can start looking at the update mesh API. Now, I called this entity API because there was two different variations, right? Was there? There shouldn't be. I think there is. So that's why we had to add the API at the end. Okay, so now update mesh has this way of receiving values as a JSON, which to me seems like the way to go. I did want to try some things. I don't know if I can try them in here. Let me think about it for a second. So I've got the desktop version that we saw just a minute ago. If I go and modify that Unity project just to do a quick test, and instead of passing JSON data and try to pass, like, I don't think it's possible, and there's just not enough information on the internet to find out. So like Jint doesn't have enough information, and like I can ask ChatGPT, but it's constantly hallucinating on topics it doesn't know about. So if I was like, using Unity Jint, how can I pass a vector 3 array from TypeScript to a Unity method or function? There we go. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's just, it's just not, it's gonna make something up that just doesn't work. JavaScript array of objects and TypeScript with the value. Okay, that seems actually somewhat reasonable. We have this done more or less. JavaScript array engine, evaluate your array.toObject. I feel like the way that we're doing it is just as good. This doesn't seem like it's any better, even if this is real. Although I think it could be. So instead what we're doing is, it's very similar. It's passing it as a JSON string and then just using the built-in JSON features of C# to convert it back to a vector 3 array, vector 2, and int. So we're just gonna keep doing with that. There's no reason to try and over-optimize it right now since it doesn't need to be. So update mesh has this model. Okay, we're also capitalizing. So this one should be actually capitalized to create, capital C create, command save. And then update mesh has a update model. So you call update mesh dot model, which I'm gonna call update model. There we go. And then we were passing in the game object, but we no longer want to pass in game objects. We want to pass in their ID. And so we need to know the int ID. And then we remember from the previous example, and we made sure this was public. So this dictionary is public, which means we can use it anywhere. We could build some sort of function to make this a little bit easier, but we're just not going to do that. So instead what we're going to do is say if parentheses entity API dot, and this was the game object dictionary dot try get value. We're going to pass in the ID. Out is going to be the game object, which we're calling game object, which then allows everything below this to just work. So now we can move everything here that needs game object, which is everything, into this. So as long as you pass in a valid ID, that will update. Nice. Okay. And then I don't think I need to change any of this stuff. I think this is all pretty solid for now. So we got mesh filters, mesh renders, mesh colliders. We're getting those components and then we're checking if they're null. And if they are null, we're then adding those components and then checking the shared mesh as well and creating a new mesh. Mesh collider doing the same thing. Okay. And then var JSON utility from JSON. Got the update mesh JSON data. And then that gives us the ability to set the mesh. We clear the mesh first, Then we set the vertices, set the UVs, set the triangles, recalculate the normals. I think this is all good. So that's updating the model. So then we got a color option, which I'm going to rename to update color, which is also going to take an int ID and then the RGB there. And now we'll do the same thing, which I'm just getting some practice here. So if parentheses, here we go, entity API dot, that was the game object dictionary dot try get value out game object as a game object, and then break that onto the next line, enter, move all this up, alt arrow up, shift alt F, nice. All right, mesh render, game object dot get component mesh renderer. If mesh render is null, add the mesh render. If mesh render dot shared material equals null, mesh render shared material equals universal render product line light. Okay, so this is just like the default that I'm using for now. I think that's okay. Might want to change that in the future to support multiple shaders. That seems to be like a reasonable like decision at some point. But for now, we're just doing this and then setting the base color and setting texture to be just a base white texture. So not doing anything crazy with the first version of this app that I'm building. We're just going to keep it with just basic colors. At some point, I'm going to make it so you can paint on the 3D models. It was something I was working on a couple of years ago, but I'm just not ready to, I'm trying to like get this first version built and then iterate and build it better and make it better. So this is fine. Okay, so update model, update color, totally readable. I like the way these things look. I think they look a lot cleaner than before. So I'm very happy. Whew. So welcome in. It's great to have a couple people here. Hi, I'm Lakes, if you've never been here before. We're just coding an app that I'm building for VR. It's a VR headset app. And what it's going to allow you to do is to 3D model in VR socially. That's the most important part for this development for me. But it's also the second most, maybe even more important than, nothing's more important than social 3D modeling. But the second most important thing, though, is to make it moddable. And so what we're doing is creating a TypeScript API that you will be able to like change and modify. So if you know how to code, you can write code to do whatever you want. And that's pretty cool. So let's get back into that. Feel free to drop messages in the chat if you have any questions or comments. Feel free. No pressure. Okay, so those compiled just fine. And so now we got our utility, we got our APIs ready to go. There's a lot more APIs I wanted to add, like the ability to see, like, what are these text objects? Where are these text objects coming from? Are these like on the hands or something? I'm not going to touch this XR rig because that's like the default. And at some point I do want to change that to have some better locomotion properties, but not today. Yeah. I've built like one VR app prior to this project, and my remembering on how each of these settings work is just very limited. So I don't really want to touch it until I'm ready to actually dive into that locomotion stuff. Okay. And there's these like spheres here. I think those are probably part of that too. Oh, maybe they're not real. The spheres won't hurt you. They're not real. Like, what are they though? And so I have this demonstration cube, that was to prove to me that it was a 1 meter grid. So if I change this to like 0.5, you can see that it lines up nicely with the grid lines. And so it's a 64 by 64 grid. And if you come from Horizon, which is where I come from, that's kind of what we were used to starting on, was a 64 by 64 grid, hence the nature of that here. In fact, I might move this to, let's see, 4.5. 4.5. I'm going to sneeze. I'm so sorry. Maybe not. Maybe I can avoid sneezing. That's 4 over. And so this is just some like test objects I was building that I don't know that I really need. I think I'm going to delete it for now because I want to build the the cubes with code. Okay, so the next thing I need to bring in from my previous project is the first script that runs. It's called initialize main, Command C, and this is going to go outside. Yeah, that's fine. And so we're going to need to open up initialize main. And there's going to be a lot of problems in initialize main because we made so many changes. But this is also one that I haven't cleaned up, and I really need to clean it up. It's a little out of hand. So I want to make this like it's 195 lines, but I want it to be like 50 lines, just something a lot simpler. And I'm not sure if I can do that. So we'll see what we can do. So I need some console text so we can have an in-world console to see what's going on when we're testing this. We've got this update console text here. I almost want to put that on a separate thing to like really differentiate the tasks. So that's what I'm going to do. We're going to duplicate this and we're just going to call this the console. All right, so we'll call this the in-world console, which I feel like we already have that script inside of our utility. And so this is going to cause some problems for sure. But now that we actually have an in-world console, maybe let's rename this folder and call this not utilities, but we'll just call this like these are scripts that get attached to objects. So scripts, attached scripts. Okay, that seems fair. And then we need to take the properties of this. So we'll call this in-world console old. We'll delete that when we're done. Right click, move to trash. Then we're going to bring this in-world console into here. Initialize main is also an attached script, so I'll bring that into here. Then if we come back into here, we can now open those up. So initialize main, double click, and in-world console and in-world console old. So in-world console old is really easy to get rid of because we just need to bring in a public static list. So easy enough. So we're going to change this to be called in-world console, and we need a public static list. Shift Alt F, nice. Now we can delete this script. So Command save, right click, delete, nice, move to trash. Okay, so now this in-world console has a list of console logs that we can then add to from anywhere. We might not need to add it to, well, we might not need to add to this from anywhere. So we might not even need to make this public or static. We'll just go with private, okay? And we don't need an engine in this one. That's for the initialize main. And then console text is something that we do need to be public. So I like to put my public stuff at the top. There we go. So we got our console text that we're going to be running this on. Now on start, we've got application.log message received plus equals handle logs. This is going to allow us to receive regular console logs. We have update console text. We don't need to reset JavaScript files or start JavaScript engine, so we can delete that, which means I can go and destroy this. Start JavaScript engine, execute, dispose of JavaScript. There we go. All that can go. All right, nice. On destroy, dispose, log message dot minus. Okay, update console text. Sure. Handle log is here. Update console text is here. Open JavaScript folder. Don't need that. Okay, reset JavaScript files. Don't need that. Downloading extract zip. Don't need that. Clear console. Could potentially use that. Okay. So we got a clear console. So that was a button that I had previously inside the desktop version. So we'll keep this in here, which just clears some strings, which is no longer called some strings. It's now called console logs. So we're gonna need to update some of that. So, and that's not inside of Slumber API either. So that is just console logs.clear, update console text, and console text is console logs dot for each line, and then line console text. Okay, that works. So clear console works, update console text works. We're gonna make sure these match the Unity method of Pascal case. We've got handle log, which is going to need to change this to be right here. And I think most interesting, handle log does not seem to update the console text. That seems problematic. So we should be calling update console text after adding. So anytime we add, we need to update console text, which means we should probably build a custom add. No, I don't think there's anywhere else we're going to be adding. So this update console text is called from on destroy. I don't know that that's needed, okay? Because anytime a log comes in, we're going to update it, okay? And update console text goes off here, clear console, console.logs, console logs.clear console. And then update console text. That seems fine. Okay. I want to put update console text at the bottom. Does that make sense? Because it's like the last thing used. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that matters so much. Handle log, I feel like that should go higher. On destroy, that's the very last thing. Like that goes at the bottom because you're destroying it. So that's like the very end. I like to think chronologically, so that's kind of like how my brain sets up. So we have start, update, handle log, clear console, update console text, on destroy. That looks perfect. Okay, and then I'm gonna move these to be next to each other. I think that looks nice. And then we have handle log getting added here. We got update console text there. We don't need to update console text here. Well, I guess we do because this initializes it. Update. So previously I was doing if you press the enter key, it would update the console text. There's no reason to do that. So we're not doing anything on update, which means I think we can just delete that. And then handle log here does log string. This seems fine. All right, nice. Super cleaned up. And that should do everything we need to do. The Text Mesh Pro is supposed to reference the console text, which will be on self, but that is fine. So now let's open up. Initialize main is really going to cause some problems. So Command A, Command slash, we're just commenting out the whole document for now. That should prevent Unity from logging a bunch of errors. Oh, still an error. Okay. List could not be found. In-world console. I'm missing a directive. Let's see. Okay. We'll go back to the original one, which was inside of Slumber API. Collections generic. Really don't have that one in here yet. System collections, Command C, Command V, dot generic. There we go. Command save. Nope. Okay, now we're getting a different error. Update console text doesn't exist in this current content. Oh, because I changed it to be capitalized. So that caused a problem because this one's lowercase. Anywhere else that was a problem? Right here. Command save. Okay. Nice. Okay, so we cleared that out. I do really want to have a in-world console, and I'm not entirely sure how to do it. We're going to try and figure this out. Unfortunately, I deleted the things that I needed to figure it out, but I think we can figure this out. Let's go give it a go. So create new UI rendering. Is there a way to do UI text canvas? So canvas usually goes over the whole thing. At least that's been my experience. There's like this VR canvas, And let's see if I can open this up. And let's see. Oh, I minimized it. There it is. Unity Hub. I have this other VR one that I left all the examples in. And previously I just used one of the examples and duplicated it. So I just need to investigate a little bit more about how they did it. Checking the chat. No chat messages. Totally fine. No biggie. But feel free, if you do join, to say hello. All right. So here's the console text I'd done before. I can see this was inside of whatever this is. This console text, what is it? It's got a position. It's got a canvas renderer. Let's just try to rebuild this from scratch. I feel like I can do that. I don't know what content is. It doesn't seem to be anything. Tutorial player doesn't seem to be anything. It does have a canvas renderer on it for what that's worth, but I think that doesn't matter. Okay, so we're just going to try to copy this. Do I have both open? I do. I'm going to move this one over to here. And so we're going to create a new empty. And we're going to call this the in-world console. Learning how to do this will make it easier to build the API too, on how that makes it possible for this to be written into the code. Okay, 0, 0, 0, move this up by 2. And we're going to start adding components. So the first component we need to add is a rect transform. Looks like we have transform, but we don't have a rect transform. I'm not sure if there's a difference. There we go. Now it's a rect transform. And rect transform has some values. Let's just get everything added first. So add component canvas render. Okay. And then this says cold transparent mesh is on. Okay. Then we need a text mesh pro. So we'll add text mesh pro text UI. There we go. And then that is it. That is all the things that we need to make this thing work. So we're going to put in just some default text, which will say console : and then we'll do a break and say hello world. There we go. Go click F to focus that, I believe. Okay. All zoom in, alt around, command around. I just right click around. I'm trying to figure out how to circle it. We should see text on here somewhere. Now in this one, I don't think it's that big, is it? F to focus. Yeah, it's really small. So 1098.17, width of 200, height of 50. This is the same width and height. Position was minus 1098. Let's see if there's some settings in here that we're missing. Pivot 0.5, 0.5, scale 1, 1, 1. That's all the same. Let's see. Text input, enable real RT. I don't know what RTL stands for. I'm like trying to figure it out. Hello world. Auto size maybe? I don't think auto size is turned on this. No, it is not. Font size was set to 24. We'll do the same thing. This is a UI. And they got Liberation Sans as the font material, which we do too. Text Mesh Pro Distance Mobile. Let's see. What is that they're using? Scale that larger. Text Mesh Pro Mobile Distance Field View. Okay, that looks the same. Distance field. Okay, let's see. Huh. Okay, give me 1 second. I'll be right back. did they get this to be the right size? Text style normal, 24. No wrap, overflow, character. Text wrapping, no wrap, overflow, character. I wonder if it's because it's inside of a group of things. Somehow, maybe that has an effect. That seems possible. Maybe there's a setting pressed up here. I don't think this setting minus 1098 should have any properties here. If I sing this to minus 1098. Yeah, okay. That definitely moved it. Not anywhere where I would want it. Come back. And I don't see the text. It's got to be on there somewhere, right? Might need to make it bigger. Is it right in the center? Don't think so. Is it below? No. Let's see. Font size go to 90. Nothing. 900. Why not? Nope. 24. Okay. Auto size. Nothing. Okay. Text style set to normal. That is the same. It's got to be the fact that there's this other thing here. So this must be a part of something larger. There's this UI here, which just has a generic transform. And then UI has tutorial player, which has a rect transform and a canvas render and an image and a canvas. Render mode world space. Ah, we're missing this canvas. Okay, let's get this set up. So we're not going to build this on top of it. We're just going to add this into it. Let's see if that works. Canvas, move that to the top. Render mode world space. And what can we see about this canvas? No camera provided. Default sorting layer, 0. Okay, default 0. Looks like we're missing properties that are, track device, graphic raycaster. Tracked device, graphic raycaster. That must be something we need. Oh no, that's a script. That's for pointing and clicking on the device. Yeah, that makes sense. Don't worry about that. Okay, so this went below it. Let's move this down below. It's above. Okay, more seemingly closer to being right. I still don't see anything on here. Could the text be wrong? Canvas, check. Canvas, Text Mesh Pro. Let's see, is there anything else I'm missing? This has an image, but I don't think that's necessary. That's just what's being displayed to make this user interface there. There's another thing here called a content, which also has a rect transform. But that doesn't seem like it's applicable either. This console is a duplicate of the header. So header is set to 0, 0. Header has this pretty large bounding box. It's set to be center, center. This one's set to be left top. Ours was set to be left top as well. Rendering only from one side, maybe? Oh, it was only rendering from one side. Oh my goodness gracious. How did I miss that? How did I miss that? I do not know. The size is 24. Okay. Oh, because we've been on the other side since we added this canvas thing to it. Okay. So then the scale just needs to be changed. So really debating this. I'm thinking 100. No, that doesn't change anything. Okay, that's interesting. Command Z, Command Z. This scale, 0.01. 0.01. This does not seem like the right answer to this problem. Like, there's got to be a better solution than just typing 0.01. But, okay, there it is. Let's change the color to be black. That's easier to see. Press play. Let's try to see if we can find this and get this into the view. So it's not in this view. Scene. The camera's facing the other direction. Well, yeah, that would do it. Stop. Slide this over here. Where's that camera? Or maybe the camera isn't facing any specific direction. But this is definitely off by 90 degrees. So rotation, 90. There we go. Play, see if that's on screen, and then we'll try all 4 directions. Hey, that's close. Needs to go more to the right. Yeah, we can work with that. Okay, so we got this console in the world now, and it looks okay enough. It's not perfect, but at least it'll do the trick for now. Whew, definitely think it's missing a little bit more, but okay. So console is set up, which means I can now attach the script that we created. So this in-world console script can now be attached somewhere in here. Collapse some of this stuff. There's the script. Needs the Text Mesh Pro component. There we go. And let's move the script to the bottom if possible. Oh, it doesn't let me do that. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. All right, so script is set up, which means on world start, it should start running the regular console. So it should reload. And so, yeah, we're seeing the error that there's no VR headset connected. Fantastic. That's exactly what I was looking for. Okay, and we'll change the font size down to be a little bit smaller because that's going to run too big. Let's go 12. Play. See what that looks like. Because we can always walk to it in VR. Like we can't right now because we're on the desktop, but in VR we'll be able to walk. And then I did want to move it to the right and then play again. Okay, nice. Perfect. Let's move it back, maybe forward just a little bit, then just a little bit to the left. Play. That'll do. Whew, command save. So we got the in-world console done. Now we got to go back to initialize main, which I'd commented out. Checking the chat, see if you guys left any messages. No messages, no problem. All right, let's keep rolling. In-world console. So here we go. In-world console. We're done with that. So we're going to initialize main. So Command A, Command slash, and we need to delete everything related to the console. So we don't need to update console text here. We don't need the console text there. We don't need the handle log. We don't need this update. Okay, on destroy, we don't need update console text. Don't need this. Let's see. Debug.log is there. We'll come back to these in a second. And we got update console text here. We can delete that. Execute. Dispose. Update console text can be deleted here. Update console text can be deleted there. Handle log can be deleted there. And so this is getting closer to that 50 lines I was kind of hoping for. Okay. Directory.exist destination. And Directory.delete. Clear console. Don't need a clear console. Okay. All right, that's starting to look a lot better. It's not perfect, but it's starting to look a lot better. There's probably some errors in here. Well, there's definitely a lot of errors in here because this is one we haven't worked on yet. But let's maybe start running through what it's doing. And what I'd like it to do is a little bit different, actually. So right now it's just starting the JavaScript environment because I don't have buttons implemented yet. So there's no buttons to press inside the world. That'll have to be created at some point. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not entirely sure. But what I wanted to do is, I guess, like, I'm thinking if there is an internet connection we download from, but no, I don't really want to do that. Okay, so I built a GitHub repo, and this is kind of like a cool feature, but it really should be its own like utility script at this point because we don't need to download and extract a zip file from GitHub. Like, this is really cool, but not needed. And so the reason is that there's a very real reality where somebody's going to download this application and not load it until they're on an airplane or somewhere without internet. And when that happens, the GitHub repo will fail and they won't have the files. So we need to get the files. And we also really shouldn't reset the JavaScript files unless we're, oh, this can't stay. This can't stay. Okay, so we need to create button to reset JS files to default. Should back up current scripts in case of user error. So ideally they don't press the reset button unless they really want to delete everything, but just in case they do, there should be a backup somewhere so you like don't just delete everything. But for now we're going to keep resetting just to make sure that things are functioning correctly. And I guess the curiosity there is perhaps when we need to also have these files. So instead of reset, check if directory exists. Instead of reset, check if directory exists. Create directory using reset. Reset if no directory. Something like that. And then we have to start the JavaScript engine, which is one of 3 engines. So this is kind of a confusing section for me because starting to build the user interface now. So there's going to be 3 different engines. So this will be the home screen JavaScript engine. May want selection screen. I don't think this isn't something we're going to add now, but in the future, there's this opportunity to allow modders to make their own versions. And then instead of running the default home screen, you could use somebody else's GitHub repo for their home screen and like run a modded home screen, which would be kind of neat. So home screen JavaScript engine is going to get started. And then later, when loading into world, the world's JS environment engine will be started. And then later after that, so then later, when users select their build tool, we want to, there's a few questions in there for me too. When users select build tool, run JS environment for that tool. So the idea is that each tool will run its own JavaScript environment to kind of encapsulate it so it doesn't accidentally step on the feet of others. And it also means that you'd be able to add mods pretty easily. So if there's a specific build tool you want, you'll be able to install it. The next question though was maybe having home screen JavaScript engine. Like I almost feel like you should load in home screen. Maybe don't call it a home screen. Maybe call it a like UI. So imagine instead of a home screen, you load into a world and then there's a user interface that you can access. I'm thinking this UI is accessible everywhere because I mean we're in VR. It's not like you need to go to a home page. You don't need to leave a world to go to a home page. You just open up the user interface. UI screen JavaScript engine. I'm thinking this UI is accessible everywhere. Yeah, that makes sense. Which means the ability to mod it becomes a lot more interesting on worlds like on at the very beginning of the app. So like modding home screen needs more day 0 or 1 support. Day 1 support. See, day 0 is like the bare minimum to get this product shipped, and day 1 is like what's happening immediately after that. So I don't know if we need to get modding on day 0, but like it needs to be there pretty soon, because you could imagine discovery might be a feature. So like in Minecraft specifically, they didn't ever really handle discovery in Java, but if you go online, there's places for that. So you could imagine if we never do discovery, which we will do discovery, I'm assuming at some point, but if we don't, somebody might make a website like they did for Minecraft, and then that could be a whole thing. So just via modded home screen. So anyway, just thinking out loud. Okay, I think I might wrap there, guys, and get ready for, I'm gonna go to chiropractor. Scripts are compiling. Got some errors because I didn't fix all the bugs. Ugh, I should fix the bugs. So this functions, this functions. We have on destroy, which I like to put at the bottom as we discussed earlier. So let's move that all the way down. There's just so much I need to do here, and it's kind of like overwhelming. There we go. Okay, so on destroys at the bottom. Then we've got start JavaScript engine, or JavaScript environment, which checks that the engine is null. It then debugs that started JavaScript engine, path.combine. Yeah, this like the multiple engines is part of this very interesting thing that's going to be happening. So I think what I'm going to do for now is Command A, Command slash. Can I just quickly Command slash that again and it leaves my comments? Nice, Command save. Okay, I'm going to just comment this whole thing out because I'm just really going to be rethinking a lot of the way that this works. And I might just like want to create some brand new files for this. So like initialize world might be a different one rather than initialize main. And we'll just there's gonna be some work to do there. A lot of work to do there. Okay, all the errors are gone. I'll come back to this later. Command save. Thanks for joining me in this interesting adventure today. I think I got OBS over here. And yeah, I'll probably be back on the Lakes' live channel to do some more development. It's a little chaotic.